you have completed another book.
I have.
The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. What does the H.G. stand for?
You know?
You don't know?
I don't know.
I would like to think Herbert Griffin.
It would make sense for the time that he was born and lived, that would seem like a...
How about you give us a brief... How about you give us the quickest, briefest rundown of The Invisible Man and how you felt about it with a star rating. While I look up H.G. Wells' real name.
Not a shot rating?
Whatever. If that makes you happy.
Well, just the theme on it,
All right, you could do that. Herbert George. I was close.
Yeah, you were.
Oh, man. All right, go on.
So, The Invisible Man, it starts out with, there's this weird guy. I never watched the old movie.
I don't think I have either.
But I've seen, clips and stuff like that. But,
He's in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which sucked.
Yeah. Either the guy wrapped in bandages and stuff like that goes
classic image.
Yeah, with a big trench coat and a hat and stuff. Goes to get this room in an inn. He's there for most of the winter or something like that. And just throughout that time, they start noting strange noises and things and stuff. And
I hate when the things and stuff get involved with them. You're troublesome.
And then there's just start stories of things being robbed and just people hearing voices and stuff like that.
It's Invisible Man shenanigans.
Yeah, yes. And then after a while, we find out that he's invisible, but not quite everybody else there knows. And then people start finding out, and so then it becomes the hunt for the Invisible Man.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's where it picked up, you said.
Yeah.
Because you said it started off a little dry, as those books can be.
Just kind of slow. Well, again, I'd imagine when it comes to any of these kind of older classic, especially these genre ones, I wonder what it reading that first. For the first time back in the day was not...
It was published in 1897.
Yeah, so, I had an idea of, where it was going, because it's okay, slow playing the invisibility and, and that kind of stuff. But I definitely liked it a lot more than the Time Machine. And I think that's mostly because, the Time Machine had, a weird... It was, in first person, but they had, other characters... And, so the time traveler, because you never know anybody's name, so it's, the time traveler, and, in the beginning of the story, it's, the reporter, and it was just a weird way and style of telling. This was just, a normal kind of just, third-person narrator, kind of, you know what I mean?
Did the Invisible Man have a name?
Yes, the event, Griffin or Griff or something like that.
Interesting, since I started the episode by saying Herbert Griffin.
Yeah. Because eventually when doing one of his runs, he, while he's on the run, goes into a house and he realizes that it's, I think he knew it beforehand, but it was somebody that he used to go to school with.
Right.
And then, so that's where we get a lot of the back, that's when we kind of, not do flashbacks, but that's when he kind of tells him, how he became invisible and just how he, what got him up to the beginning of the story and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting. I like it, and it was only it was under 150 pages. So
how was the writing style?
It was good. Like I said again, I definitely liked it. I liked the writing style more in this book than the Time Machine. And it really has me interested in whenever I go to check out Ward the Wards.
Yeah,
because that's the next one I have of his that I wanted to check out.
Well, what's your official rating of The Invisible Man?
I'd give it about 3 out of 5. If we roll out halves, it'd be 3.5. Because it was good, it was solid, but also just with it being an older story kind of doesn't automatically rank lower, but it's just,
Well, 125-year-old book. It's going to be a little dated, I'd imagine.
But, I still enjoyed it. It didn't take me long to read it, especially considering how it was mostly a book I read while I was on break at work for the most part. So it still only took me a couple weeks, to get through it and, switching out between all the different comic books and...
Right.
and the first-person perspective, and stuff like that. So
first person singular,
whatever.
Same difference.
Whatever.
I started reading Jerusalem again.
Yeah. How many chapters?
Yeah. I finished the one I was on, started the other one, and I'm either halfway through that chapter or not. I don't know.
Now, the chapter's big?
Some of them seem to be. Everything's big.
Everything's bigger in Jerusalem.
Yeah, they are. Everything is large and in charge, and it's sometimes it could be a bit of a slog. See, now I went to a more modern chapter, because the last one was in ancient fucking Europe, and that was boring as shit until the end of that chapter. This chapter...
And then I bet next chapter just started with some other more boring shit.
This chapter started off in 1903 or something with a young kid who's, I don't know, vaudeville or something. He's a showman. I skipped ahead 8,000 pages just to look to see, because I remember that Finnegan's Wake nonsense. Somewhere I read or heard people were talking about there's a chapter that's just like Finnegan's Wake, which we covered on the podcast before, is like fucking nonsense. So I was like, oh, let me at least see what that's like, because if I get to that point and I just have to throw the book away, I'd be really mad. So it's like 896 pages in. You get to that, and sure enough, it's nonsense. Just nonsense. I'll let you read that later. But I am reading it. I'm getting it the old college try, and maybe we'll have a redemption IRC if I finish it. I'll be by myself.
Yeah.
I'll just talk to the wind.
Well, I could be there because, you could talk to me about it, because I have a feeling, even though that I haven't read it, it'd probably make just as much sense to me as if I had read it.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
Well, you should see is if, did you ever see if there was an Audible version?
That long silence means no. I don't want to listen to. Do you know how long that would have to be?
Well, I'm just saying, because could you imagine listening to all those hours of Alan, because it'd have to be Alan Moore doing it.
Nobody else is reading that.
There would probably be, because here's the thing, this is what it is. Whoever listens it to the whole thing at the end, they get like magical powers, because it's all just like some spell, because he's a wizard. So reading it, you don't get the powers, but if you listen to the audiobook,
yeah, but it'd probably be like some kind of lame powers, like if you ejaculate, it goes up in you.
Yeah,
like it just shoots back up your bladder or something.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound good. Comes out the wrong hole or something. I don't know. I will try to see real quick on YouTube if I can find that one chapter, like an Audible version that I can play on here. If not, we'll just go into the episode as normal. Welcome to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, Spencer, the Paris PP Pursuer Church. I went PP.
Yeah.
Could have went something not PP, but I figured, why not?
Yeah.
PP, wee wee. Yeah. If you listen to the whole cold open, why wouldn't you? We were talking about Alan Moore's Jerusalem in the chapter of nonsense, and I looked up the chapter on YouTube to see if I could find one, and there's a reading of Alan Moore reading the chapter, and he literally starts, I'm not going to play it, because it's fucking hard to hear, and he's wizarding, and I don't want to get anybody cursed, but he starts the reading off by saying something along the lines of, well, you're not going to understand it, it's complete gibberish. It's like, why did you write it?
What's the name of the video? Maybe if they want to...
Long version. Alan Moore reads a chapter from his new book, Jerusalem, at Northampton Library. And I'm just assuming this was the chapter that's like Finnegan's Wake. If it's not, then he just has another chapter of straight gibberish. I don't know. There is actually some gibberish I already read in this book, but it was like a made-up language. I don't know if he went the same way with that. What's today's episode about? Like, we completely forgot. Like, that's kind of the important thing, right?
I thought when you went to find the name and stuff, I thought you had something already.
It didn't even cross my mind to think of something. That's professional. So you like books?
Books.
You like writing books?
Big, thick books.
Big, girthy, large-spined books.
Yeah.
How much spine you want?
All of it.
All of
the spine. You know what I want to do? I want to crack that spine.
I'll crack it right open.
Right in the middle.
Slide a finger down the crack of that spine. No, we should probably talk about something super important, which is, I had an idea earlier that was terrible. Probably why I can't remember it now. Because it was bad. I'm not going to say it was good. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to hoodwink the folks listening.
But I feel like sometimes bad ideas end up being good episodes. Sometimes.
We like to think so. John Cena, boy, 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 boy. I guess this will be a DBS episode. We're overdue by like a week.
Yeah.
Last week we had a real episode. We can't have too many of those in a row.
People was, start expecting things.
Oh God, yeah. We had all kinds of good information on the last episode, so we don't need to do that. Don't even need to talk.
What did we talk about last episode?
I don't know. Let's talk way over here, away from the mic.
Wait, just hey.
Yeah. So people crank up the volume, and then we come right back in and blow out their fucking eardrum. People love when you do that. I'm sure of it. Self-sabotage, DPW podcast.
We don't want to make it.
What are you reading now that The Invisible Man has been completed?
I haven't started a book yet because I literally finished it on like Monday or Tuesday, so I was just trying to get caught up on a couple comics before the new stuff came out this, on Wednesday. So I haven't grabbed the new book yet.
Interesting. You should read Coin Locker Babies.
Yeah?
By Ryu Murakami that you have it at your disposal because I let you borrow it a month or two ago.
No, it was long. It was like at the beginning of the year. Like, because you remember that was one of my 5 winter books?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. Well, I did start reading Jerusalem again, but I'm just going to read that at night before bed because I like to have nightmares. Because
you're all done with Solomon Kane.
I have about 100 pages left of Solomon Kane. Man, is it getting racist or what? Jeez. I will say this about Solomon Kane's adventures. I'm not even joking. Every single story deals with some black, barbarous, monkey-like fucking creature people things. And
it probably doesn't help, too, that he's, like, super white.
He is the gaunt. And, well, there is multiple times per story where they talk about the fineness of the white race. But like I said before in previous episodes, it's written in such a way, though, where you think, like, oh, Howard is for civil rights. Like,
Is this his point of view, or is this him, like, commenting on?
Well, it sounds like he's commenting on through his characters, like Solomon Kane, but it's not like Solomon Kane looks upon black people as bad or inferior to white people or anything like that. Like, the character, it's hard to explain. You'd have to read it because there's, like, these evil black people that keep popping up, but they're not the same as the one he's befriended through his adventures because he's been in Africa and stuff.
Yeah.
So it just sounds like Howard was about as progressive as a white Texas man in the 1920s and 30s could have been.
Yeah.
So
without getting hanged.
So his ideas on racism, like, back then probably would have been pretty progressive, but obviously looking through a modern lens, you'd be like, that sounds super racist. Like, we're just talking about, like, the superiority of the white race is, like, a fucking horrible thing to even think of, let alone, discuss in a book. But he does it in a way where, because, like, there was that one with the Atlanteans, which were, like, a brown people race. Like, they didn't look like any other kinds of people. And they were actually the superior race above everyone. They thought, like, that was his way of taking place of, I don't know, like, white supremacists, like, how they view the world. He made the Atlanteans, like, white supremacists, except for they were brown people. So they thought they were better. They considered the white race, the black race, anyone else, like, to be these subservient fucking mongrels. So it was very interesting, like, how he wrote about that stuff. It just doesn't come across good from a modern lens sometimes. But anyway, getting off topic. So I'm almost done with that. I just been kind of, taking my time.
Well, you went through it pretty quick.
Yeah, I read that Def Republic poetry collection that finally came in. It went all around the fucking country for some reason. Like, Amazon really dropped the ball with that. By the way, I think in an episode, I don't remember, but I was talking about Ela Kaminsky, the author. I might have referred to him as a she because I, at the time, thought Ela was a lady's name. In the picture, like, it was kind of androgynous, like, it was hard to tell. But because usually I like to go into something like that without too much information on the author or anything, just to, so I don't have any kind of biases when I read it. But I did some research on Eli Kaminsky afterwards and was listening to some of his poetry on YouTube and stuff. So it is a man, if I, don't want to offend anybody there on accident. But after Solomon Kane, I'm going to start reading, which I pre-ordered. It should be here. I think it should be next week, actually. Quentin Tarantino's first novel, which is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but he, fleshes everything out in novel form. And he's actually coming on he's supposed to come on the podcast next week, but I told him we didn't really have, like, the time, because, a guy like that, it works around his time. Yeah. All right, Mr. Big Shot Hollywood,
go make your one movie and disappear.
Don't call us, we'll call you. When we have the time, we'll see if you want to come on the podcast. We're very busy. We have a lot of content. And we have things to talk about, obviously.
He probably asked us to review it, too, probably.
I ain't doing all that. It was just on Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That had to be weird.
I don't listen to Rogan anymore for like a year now, but I watched a clip on YouTube because it was the Bruce Lee controversy. Like they were talking about.
Oh, yeah, because he got super butthurt about that.
Yeah, Joe Rogan.
Did he just back down?
Completely. Like a bitch. Like Quentin Tarantino was just going on. He even said, Bruce Lee was kind of an asshole. You know how he talks. Yeah, he's kind of an asshole. And he was just going on. He's real cocky. He beat up stuntmen all the time. Problem is, Quentin Tarantino knows so much about films and the film industry, and he's read every book on everything. So it's hard not to believe him when he starts talking about stuff like that. And he did have one of the greatest lines I ever heard. Because he was talking about the controversy about how people were coming at him and stuff. He's like, okay, Bruce Lee's daughter, I understand. If she's mad, I get that. But everyone else, you can suck a dick. That's exactly what he said. And it was fucking great. He's like, you can suck a dick. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess they can suck a dick. Like, it's nice to see somebody not bothered by criticism, I guess. But yeah, Joe Rogan because, he's gone so many times about that topic.
Yeah.
About them, how they portray Bruce Lee and everything. Which also, as Quentin was talking about a little bit, and he goes on more about like Cliff's like character in the book and stuff, and how he's killed people in war and all this stuff. I'm not gonna elaborate too much on all that, but he was talking about it, and it's like it's fiction. Like this isn't like the real Bruce Lee in the movie. Like in the movie, the scene was like a dream like scene. Like it was like Cliff like just remembering his like obviously it could have went anyway, and he's just
especially considering how because like I haven't watched the movie, but I know that it deals with like the Manson stuff, and it has a completely different way of like right? Doesn't
they all get murdered? The Brad Pitt's character just murders the fuck out of all of them.
So like
kills them real bad. And Sharon Tate lives.
So obviously
it's not real.
Yeah,
it's fiction. Well, that's the thing. It's like you might have portrayed a real person in a negative way, but this scene never happened in real life.
Yeah.
Fucking some Brad Pitt stuntman character did not fight Bruce Lee in a parking lot.
It's almost kind of like being mad that, like, with the Abraham Lincoln vampire hunter, to be like, well, you good Abraham Lincoln, to be like, it's not a real thing, it didn't happen.
Well, like Quinn said, like, if you're the family, I could understand. Like, oh, you made my dad look like a fucking asshole. Like, I would understand. But everyone else, what the fuck do you care?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know Bruce Lee. I mean, Bruce Lee died before I was even born. So I can't jive with fucking people like Joe Rogan because he went on and on about that for I don't know how many times. Like I said, I haven't listened to that podcast in probably like a year really, and he was talking about it back fucking when I was listening to it every once in a while.
Yeah, because the movie just came out before like he did the switch, or like maybe like a year before the switch. I think
it was like a year before. Yeah, he just completely fucking pussified and backed down. It just seems like that's a common thing now. Because he used to, like, if he had an idea, like, if he had, like, a thought of, like, how he viewed something, he would be pretty stern about it. Like, he would fight people about certain things.
And not be, like, a dick about it, but be like, no, this is my thought or my opinion
But here's the thing. Like, when he would have, like, these wienery fucking beta dudes on there, or not that successful guys or whatever, he would fucking hammer them. He had that, because I remember when he had that Adam... I forget that guy's name, but it's like Adam versus everything or ruins everything.
Yeah. He got into him about one of
it was like transgendered stuff or something. But like that was one of the topics. I mean, I ended up having to just stop listening to it because it was fucking cringy as hell. But like that guy,
it was the
transgenders in sports.
Yeah, in the fighting.
But that guy's like super progressive. Like I think he was like about a kid wants to get hormones to change their gender, whatever. Like he was on the progressive super left side of that, like the extreme probably. And then obviously Rogan, he tries to come like at least for a long time he seemed like he tried to be in the middle, kind of logical and reasonable, but you can sway him one way or the other depending on the facts. But he just fucking hammered that guy. Like he just didn't want to listen to anything. And he seems to have gone down like a road where he'll only do that with specific guests. But then when he has like a Quentin Tarantino or like a Kanye West or whoever is like pretty like really famous, he just kind of lets them, railroad the show and do whatever they want. Like he doesn't because he talks so much shit about that scene in the movie. And he, like, barely contested it on that clip. I was like, what are you doing?
Even with Kanye West, like, remember how much shit he just talked on Kanye West? And when he finally came on, and it was a short, where wasn't it only like 100, like an hour and a half?
I couldn't even listen to the whole thing because it was fucking, Yeah, that's the thing. Like, he'll make fun of people real hard. And he's a comedian, so whatever. But then when they finally come on the show, all of a sudden, like, he's not busting any balls, and he's like, it's one thing to be respectful, but it's almost like he's acting like he never did or said any of that stuff. So what if these people actually listen to your fucking podcast, though? And like, because like, how many times does he shit on wrestling and wrestlers? Like, fucking all the time. Well, but then when The Undertaker's on, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, yeah, wrestling's real respectable.
Well,
and
I saw him post something about watching the Macho Man. Not even like the Dark Side of the Ring one, but the A&E one, and he's like, oh, I think I'm finally starting to get professional wrestling, and it's just like, okay, man.
You've only had Undertaker and Jake the Snake and whoever else on the fucking podcast, and whenever those guys are on, all of a sudden, it's respectable, and you can, these guys work hard, and they do, but then when it's just Tony Hinchcliffe on there, you're fucking making fun of him, wrestling's fake, it's stupid, it's lame. It's like, come on, dude. So he just became like even before he moved to Texas, he just started becoming like real wishy-washy with this stuff.
Like I said, because we've talked about it before, it's like even if he had like, if he was starting to agree with a lot of things that I didn't agree with, but
it's still his opinion.
Yeah, it's his opinion.
But when you start fucking flip-flopping depending on the guest, then it's like, okay, do you even have an opinion?
I mean, that's another thing, like, I haven't checked for a while, but like, it was getting to the point where I'm just like, who the fuck is this skinny white guy that like is talking to me about either some kind of weird, like, social justice thing, or some, like, economy thing, or just some weird, or nutrition. Like, I don't want to fucking hear you talk about nutrition again. Like,
yeah, it'd be very repetitive, because he'd have the same kind of, same types of people on over and over. And it got way too political with, like, some of the guests. Like, you started having, like, controversial right-wing guests, like Candace Owens.
Yeah.
And then you'd have whatever their left version of them was. And it's just like, why can't we... Like, it's okay if you have that once in a while, but there was, like, weeks where, like, that's all the fucking episodes were about, and the same topics were discussed. I was like, all right. Like, I understand why people bail on this.
And, like, I never heard him say anything about, like, whenever... Brian Callen got into that hot water, or
Chris D'Elia.
Like not even just like a man, I don't know what's going on.
He just didn't have him on the podcast anymore and didn't discuss them.
Yeah, like they were never there.
Yeah.
Like they were never there.
Just fucking didn't happen. Just disappeared.
Which is like, with the D'Elia thing I got, but like, how many times is fucking Callen we're like brothers.
Yeah.
We're like brothers. And now it's just like, well, I hope they don't find out any of the shit that I did.
Yeah, pretty much. Because when Cosby got busted, fucking they made fun of him nonstop, or any other guy got busted for something, they just went all in on him. But then when it's one of their own, all of a sudden it's just like, oh, fucking not going to talk to that guy anymore. Chris D'Elia, he was on the podcast like a couple times, but I don't really know him, Yeah. Who would have thought that guy who looks like a fucking skis ball would have been a skis ball?
Yeah, we've been on the episode a couple times, did some touring with him, worked many shows with him, but I don't really know the guy.
I don't really know him like that. I just fucking...
I was wondering if I go look on the old Spotify and just like look through to see if there's anything interesting, like anybody interesting, since he's supposed to be coming, in Pittsburgh, just to see.
It's so sad because he used to, like, the guests we would want to see on there, we just, for the most part, would never come on. And then when he finally got to the point where these guests were coming on, we just didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, I always wanted to see Dave Chappelle on there. And then by the time Dave Chappelle actually got on there, I was like, I don't even fucking listen to it anymore.
Well, it doesn't help either. The first time that Chappelle was on...
Darnell Rawlings.
Yeah, your favorite.
It's a flappity-jibbity-jab. By the way, folks, I'm sorry if you don't care about this. I can understand. Because I know a lot of people aren't Rogan fans, especially the creative types. But if you want to know the top podcasts I've been listening to, you know what? I'll just bring my list up. Because I do like to shout out other podcasts that I think are quality.
Yeah.
Like the Drunken Writing Podcast. My current list, what I've been listening to, Poetry Unbound, which is by On Bean Studios. That's just like... I was telling you about it. That's where I found that Ela Kaminsky poem that made me buy the Deaf Republic book. They start off the episode by reading the poem, then they actually break it down, because, like, you know, I don't like contemporary poetry.
Yeah.
I don't fucking understand it. Well, now I'm starting to, because I've been listening to this. Because he breaks it down, the host, in such a way where even an idiot like me can understand it. Then they read it again to end the episode, so now you can... With the new information you got, you can go into the poetry and actually get some, finally get some stuff out of it that you might have not got the first listen. And they're only like 10 minutes long or something. I also been listening to A Beautiful Anarchy by David Duchemin. That's more like a motivational thing for creatives.
That's the one you told me to check out. Yeah.
Again, 10 to 15 minute episodes at most, and I'm already caught up on all the episodes. He posts like 3 a month, like once every week, or then the 4th month he doesn't, or the 4th week he doesn't. I've been listening to fiction. Actually, I'm all caught up on this too. Fictional by Jason Weiser, which is the other one, Myths and Legends, which is the main one he did, where they discuss myths and legends from history, and he breaks it down in a funny way. Well, fictional is just him reading novels and stuff, like breaking down novels. And
so you're completely caught up to that one? You just like jumped over to that one and
yeah, I didn't read Count of Monte Cristo and The Tempest. I didn't listen to.
Is that because you think you might eventually read those ones?
It's just because there's like 3 parts to them, and I just wasn't all that interested at the time. I listen to them when I play Harvest Moon, at the Super Nintendo version, because you've been watching me play somewhere.
Yeah, I've been watching you picking your beats.
Got a nice farm going on. Here, read this podcast by Mr. Ash Cat in there. He's been on the episodes that we've done, I don't know, a handful of times or more. He's been on this podcast a bunch of times.
And we've been on his podcast a couple of times?
Yeah. He's been covering a lot of Shakespeare stuff lately, but if you're into classic literature, like somebody who's actually breaking it down and making it entertaining, and talking about like Shakespeare and stuff like that.
We'll read passages and stuff like that.
And like the history of it, and in a way that we're not going to give you.
No.
The Read This podcast is an excellent choice.
And I think I think he, if you want to check out some more of his stuff, I think he's been doing a lot of stuff on his YouTube page.
Yeah, he's been doing different things on YouTube as well.
Because there for a while, he didn't put any episodes out there for a while.
I think he was banking them probably.
Yeah, so now recently he's been
having a lot of like interviews and stuff.
Yeah, so
yeah, check out Read This podcast. That's a good one. The Writer Files I listen to here and there. It's like one of the top ones when you search like writing podcasts. The host Kelton Reed. He has like this California Valley accent kind of, so it kind of turns me off. I don't mind him. I just don't think his interviews, I don't think he's like that great of an interviewer at times. And the episodes are kind of weird because it's like they're usually 30 minutes and I don't know, it's just like they'll have like random ad break-ins and stuff, but some of the guests are pretty good and I do like the episodes from time to time. It's not one I listen to all the time. I have the Jocko podcast on here for some reason, but I don't listen to it. Listen to it when I have a sexy time alone.
You listen to it when you got hot shit you're trying to work out.
I got the Jocko podcast because my cousin was like a big fan of him, and he told me to listen to him. And I unlike you, when he was on the Rogan podcast, I didn't mind him so much. I did get like that, okay, like you're doing all this shit in a day, making everyone feel like poop for not wanting to work out when they have a broken leg or whatever. Like, yeah, I don't know about all that, but I actually got the podcast because he had an episode on Miyamoto Musashi, who's one of my favorite samurais.
Yeah.
Everybody has a favorite samurai, right? Because that Vagabond series I was reading, and then that Musashi by Eiji Kaza something or other. But he had an episode on him, and that's pretty much the only one I really listened to. I got the Henry Rollins, KCRW. Every once in a while, I like to listen to some weird German music that he'll put on there. And
so is that just him just playing music and talking about it?
Yeah, it's a radio show.
Oh, okay.
It's like an NPR type of radio show. He's been doing it for fucking ever.
Oh, and they just put out the episodes later?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I like it because I've been introduced to some songs I end up really liking by fucking people I've never heard of in countries that I don't even know how to pronounce. And because Henry Rollins is like a big audiophile.
That dude, like, I don't know, like, if I saw him in public, even, like, because he always seems, like, so super nice.
Yeah, but
and, like, a gentleness and stuff, too. But, like, I'm just, like, I don't...
I've seen many videos of him, like, just randomly fucking snapping on people.
Oh, yeah. Or just even, like, because just a couple of stories, you go back to Rogan, the couple of stories he's told on Rogan was just, like...
He's a very amped up dude. The Abroad in Japan... That is by Chris Broad. I actually started watching his YouTube videos a long time ago. Excellent. Abroad Japan's excellent YouTube channel if you're interested in life in Japan. He's a British dude that lives in Japan. But his podcasts are pretty funny. They cover topics like, I don't know, like, weird homeless lady found living in guy's house in Japan or something. Things like that. The Dead Robot Society we both listen to. As of now, hosted by Terry Mixon and Paulie Cooley still. Used to be Justin McCumber was like the creator of it.
Yeah.
Sadly, he's passed on a couple years ago, but
and they've had multiple other co-hosts throughout the year.
I originally got into that podcast because they were all aspiring writers. They were kind of where we are. Maybe actually less than we are. And then they were just kind of working through things and stuff. And that's kind of what inspired this podcast was the Dead Robots podcast. But now, like, Paul and Terry, they got a shitload of books, and they got a good audience and stuff, so...
No, Terry's just writing, right?
I think that's all he does, yeah, is write. I listen every once in a while to the Art of Manliness podcast. It's like a super popular one. They have some cool topics. Like, I haven't listened to recently, because there's been a lot of stuff about, like, being a dad, and just like, shit I'm not gonna fucking ever have to worry about. But they, they'll have cool, topic. Like, they had one about that... I always fucking forget his name, and I talked to him on Twitter. I don't know. The guy that wrote that heavyweight boxing book I really liked. He did an interview on this podcast, and then that's how I found out about him. I got the book. I really enjoyed it, and connected to him on the old Twitter. And then lastly, yeah, you like how I do this. Lastly, I follow the Ghastly Tales podcast. It's just this Irish guy that has a great accent, and he reads like scary stories.
Oh, nice.
They don't upgrade too often. Their last episode was May 29th, 2021. So they had 2 in May, it looks like about 2 a month, but they didn't do anything in June. They have original stories, and then they have like classic like Poe or Lovecraft or stuff like that. But every once in a while I'm in the mood for a horror story or something, I'll listen to that. Anything you want to add to this? That's what I've been listening to.
I mean, any of the ones that are worth anything, like the Dead Robots and Myth and Legends, any of those ones you've already talked about. Anything else that I'm listening to are either...
It's like Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith or comic books or just, like nerdy, like pop cultural, just central kind of like entertainment podcasts.
I try to keep my podcast focused on creative endeavors because I feel like I used to listen to a lot of Kevin Smith's podcasts, like he had the Hollywood Babylon, Fat Man on Batman, Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, or whatever that one was. Like he had a bunch of them, and I would listen to like especially Hollywood Babylon, because I forget the guy that used to work for Jay Leno, the co-host. Like I just thought they were a good team. I thought they were really funny.
Think you're thinking of Education,
yeah.
Like when he would just quiz them on things.
Yeah.
I think that might be back, but it's on he has like a Kevin Smith Club thing to where like certain things you can only get on there, but in like the back catalogs of some of the other.
Education was the main one I listened to because I thought they were
with
fun.
That Andy McKelfer or something like that. Yeah.
Because he used to write for Jay Leno on the Jay Leno Tonight Show.
Smart dude.
Yeah, they were making a movie or something, and I don't know if that ever came to fruition. They never made that Krampus movie they were talking about. But anyway, I would listen to like those, and they were really funny and stuff, but I wasn't learning anything.
No.
I wasn't like improving my life by listening to them. It was just like watching like mindless TV. So whereas it's funny, I think those are best in moderation. That's my opinion.
See, that's the stuff I listen to try to get me through work.
That's a little different.
Without the murder. Like.
Without the moida. Yeah, moida. I like it. And I've been seeing a lot of other podcasts that are really interesting. Like there's this noir detective podcast. I'm not even joking. I think they're on to 4,000 episodes now. Jeez. And each one's like at least 30 minutes long. I think most of them are almost an hour long. And I think it's a continuation of a story.
So, and say, what is it, like an audio play or something like that?
There's a lot of those going on now. Like one of the featured writers on our site. Let me bring up her Instagram because she has she had like the Dead Letters podcast, which was like one of her stories that she was like a serial story, and apparently she's doing very well with.
That's good.
With the
well, we've always joked about it if we wanted to actually have like a good podcast to do like a true crimes podcast, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
People love those.
VP Morris, she has a current one, Shadowcast, which looks to be, I would think it's a book, and it's so Shadowcast I think is her book, but she I think is doing a podcast version of that too. I have not listened to either of those, so I can't really judge, but I did look at her numbers that she posted, and she had like, that Dead Letters podcast had like 10,000 downloads in like the first month or something. I don't know. She was doing pretty decent, but that's what we need to get on. I would like to do a serial podcast. I just don't want to pay for another podcast, you know? Like, if they fucking made it cheaper to have like a decent, because the uploads, that's what it is. Like, if you do the free version, you only get, like, so many megabytes, which is, like, 10 minutes or something. Like, one episode a week, or I don't know. It's not good. But anyway, I don't know what else we can talk about. I think that's about it. Talk about podcast and Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
That's what the people want to hear, right?
If we edited all that out, it'd only be, like, 15 minutes.
Well, you had your Invisible Man review at the beginning.
Oh, true.
That adds 5 minutes. Anyway, folks, if you like this podcast, share it with your friends. Or give us a review on something. Yeah. Anything. Could be the...
how shitty we are. I always go with the negative.
It's not iTunes. I think it's just Apple Podcasts now. I think they changed over. You can talk shit about us. I don't care. If you're going to talk shit about us, I'd prefer you to do it on Twitter at Drunk Pen Writing. So, because that's what I mainly get the interaction on. And the other ones I always forget. Like, the other notifications I just ignore, and because I don't know what the fuck they're from. So, if it's like Instagram or something, it'd be like a week later. I'm like, oh shit, one of our fans commented on Spencer's picture that's on there. Cool. I'll give him a thumbs up or something. But Twitter, we're a little more active on Twitter. Not really anymore. I'm so over social media. But we are on it. DrunkenPenWriting.com is the website. Drunken Pen Writing at Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You know the name. You know the game. Don't be lame. Finish it, Spencer.
And download. I don't know what was the ending supposed to be. I
don't know. Something witty.
Oh, wrong guy.
You got all the wit. Okay, well, thanks for listening. Goodbye.